Captain Hyun-woo Kim stood on the bridge of the UES Indomitable, watching the stars through the massive viewing window. The ship was huge, stretching over a kilometer from front to back. Its thick armor plating gleamed under the distant light of nearby suns. Rows of weapons lined its hull like the spines of some giant metal beast. The year was 2387, and humanity had spread across 17 different star systems. Each world was home to millions of people who had left Earth to build new lives among the stars. The Indomitable was the newest and strongest ship in the human fleet. It carried enough firepower to destroy entire cities and armor thick enough to survive direct hits from nuclear weapons. Hyun-woo had been captain for 3 years now. He was 42 years old with gray starting to show in his black hair. His crew respected him because he made good decisions under pressure and never asked them to do anything he would not do himself. "Captain," called Commander So-young Park from her station. She was the ship's expert on alien life. Though humanity had never actually found any aliens before, So-young was young for her rank, only 31. But she was the smartest person Hyun-woo had ever met when it came to biology and chemistry. "I'm getting some strange readings from the edge of the Kepler 442 system." Hyun-woo walked over to her station. The screen showed a map of nearby space with small dots marking planets, asteroids, and other objects. At the very edge of the display, new dots were appearing. "Lots of them. What am I looking at?" Hyun-woo asked. "Unknown contacts, sir. They just appeared out of nowhere about 10 minutes ago. The computer says they came out of hyperspace, but the energy signatures are like nothing in our databases." Chief Engineer Taemin Lee looked up from his console. He was a big man with rough hands from years of working with machinery. "Captain, those energy readings are impossible. Each one of those contacts is putting out as much power as a small star. Our sensors must be broken. Run a full diagnostic on all sensor arrays," Hyun-woo ordered. "I want to know if we're looking at real contacts or equipment failure." 20 minutes later, Taemin shook his head. "All sensors check out perfectly, sir. Whatever those things are, they're real." So-young enhanced the image on the main screen. The contacts looked strange, nothing like human ships. They appeared to be organic, like giant sea creatures floating in space. Their surfaces seemed to flow and change, and they glowed with soft patterns of light. "How many are there?" Hyun-woo asked. "Over 300, sir. And they're big. The largest ones are the size of small moons." Lieutenant Jae-hoon Choi, the communications officer, suddenly sat up straight at his station. "Captain, I'm receiving a transmission from the unknown contacts. Put it on speakers." The bridge filled with a complex series of mathematical sounds, numbers and equations that any intelligent species would understand. Then came something else, a pattern of tones that sounded almost like music. "It's a greeting," Jae-hoon said, his voice excited. "They're trying to communicate with us using math and then what I think is their own language." Hyun-woo felt his heart racing. After hundreds of years of searching, humanity had finally found alien life. And these aliens were trying to talk to them. "Can you send a response?" "I think so, sir. Give me a few minutes to put together a mathematical reply." While Jae-hoon worked on the message, Hyun-woo called a meeting with his senior officers. They gathered in the small conference room next to the bridge. "This is it," he said, looking at each of them. "First contact with an alien species. We're probably going to be the most famous humans in history after this." Dr. Mi-young-han, the ship's diplomat, had been quiet during the whole event. She was older than the others, 55 years old with silver hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing.
"Captain, I need to point out that we're alone out here.
The nearest human fleet is 2 weeks away. If these aliens turn out to be hostile, we're on our own." "Do you think they're hostile?" Hyun-woo asked So-young. "I don't know, sir. They haven't made any aggressive moves. They're just sitting there at the edge of the system waiting. If they wanted to attack us, they probably would have done it already." Tae-min crossed his arms. "With their power levels, they could probably destroy us without even trying. If they wanted us dead, we'd already be dead." Jae-hoon came back into the room. "I sent our reply, sir. Basic math, physics constants, and a greeting pattern based on what they sent us." They waited. For 30 minutes, nothing happened. Then the alien sent another message. This time it was more complex. Pictures and symbols that showed star systems, trade routes, and what looked like different alien species working together. "I think they're showing us a galactic community," So-young said, studying the images. "Multiple species all connected. And they want us to join?" Mi-young asked. "That's what it looks like." Hyun-woo made his decision. "Jae-hoon, send a message telling them we're willing to meet and talk." Mi Young, start putting together a first contact team. So Young, I want you to analyze everything we can about their ships and biology. Taemin, make sure all our systems are ready. If this goes wrong, I want us prepared for anything. Are you sure about this, sir? Mi Young asked. We're supposed to wait for the fleet. We could wait 2 weeks and miss the greatest opportunity in human history. Or we could take the chance and represent our entire species in the most important conversation we've ever had. Hyunwoo looked out the window at the alien fleet. I'm not going to let fear make this decision for us. Over the next day, the aliens sent more messages. They seemed patient, willing to take time to establish proper communication. They sent images of their ships, their technology, and what appeared to be peaceful meetings with other alien species. The largest alien ship, shaped like a massive flower made of crystal and metal, extended what looked like a docking tunnel toward them. The message was clear. They wanted the humans to come aboard. This is it, Hyunwoo announced to his crew. We're about to make history. Whatever happens next, remember that we're representing all of humanity. We're not just ourselves anymore. We're Earth's voice in the galaxy. The Indomitable began moving toward the alien fleet, carrying the hopes and dreams of an entire species toward their destiny among the stars. The alien ship was even more incredible up close. As the Indomitable approached, Hyunwoo could see that the massive vessel was actually alive. Its surface moved like skin, breathing slowly in the vacuum of space. Patterns of blue and green light flowed across its hull like veins carrying glowing blood. Captain, So Young said, her voice full of wonder, I'm reading biological signatures from their ship. It's not just made to look organic, it actually is organic. It's a living creature. The docking tunnel that extended toward them looked like a giant tentacle, but it moved with purpose and intelligence. As it connected to their airlock, Hyunwoo could feel a slight vibration through the ship's hull. The alien vessel was humming, almost like it was singing. Atmosphere check complete, reported Taemin. The tunnel has human breathable air. Temperature is comfortable. They have adjusted their environment for us. Dr. Mi Young-han stood ready with the first contact team. She wore her best diplomatic uniform and carried a tablet with translation software that Jae-hoon had quickly programmed. Behind her stood technical specialist Dong-hyun Yu, a quiet young man who was an expert at analyzing alien technology, and 2 security officers armed with non-lethal weapons. Remember, Mi Young said to her team, we're ambassadors for all humanity. Be respectful, be observant, and be ready for anything. As they walked through the docking tunnel, the walls around them pulsed gently with soft light. The surface felt warm to the touch, and Dong-hyun noticed that the tunnel was actually adjusting its length and width to make their walk more comfortable. They emerged into a chamber that took their breath away. The room was enormous, with walls that curved like the inside of a shell. Everything was smooth and flowing, as if the entire space had been grown rather than built. Soft light came from panels in the walls that looked like living tissue. Then they saw the aliens. The beings that approached them were tall and graceful, about 2.5 meters high. Their skin was translucent, shifting from pale blue to soft purple as they moved. They had multiple eyes arranged around their heads, each one a different color, and long tentacle-like arms that moved with fluid precision. When they walked, they seemed to float just slightly above the floor. The lead alien stepped forward and began to speak. Its voice was musical, like several people singing in harmony at the same time. The colors in its skin shifted as it talked, and a sweet smell filled the air. Jae-hoon's translation device worked frantically to convert the alien language. After a few moments, words began to appear on Mi Young's tablet. Greetings, young travelers from the small blue world. I am Prime Harmonizer Velneth Saurun of the Veltar Confluence. We welcome you to our vessel with joy and anticipation. Mi Young stepped forward and bowed slightly. I am Dr. Mi Young-han, representing humanity and the planet Earth. We are honored to meet you and grateful for your welcome. The alien's skin brightened to warm gold colors. Your species shows promise. We have watched your expansion among the stars with interest. You build well and adapt quickly to new environments. You've been watching us? Mi Young asked. For some time, yes. We observe all developing species to determine when they are ready for contact with the greater galactic community. Your people have reached that stage. Saorin gestured with its flowing arms, and the walls around them became transparent. Beyond the chamber, they could see the interior of the massive ship. It was like looking into a living city. Thousands of different alien beings moved through corridors and chambers. Some looked similar to the Veltar, while others were completely different. Creatures with wings, beings made of what looked like living metal, and entities that seemed to be made of pure energy. "This is magnificent," So-Young whispered. "This is but one vessel of our confluence," Cyrun explained. "We are a community of 40,000 different species spread across 3 arms of the galaxy. For 50,000 years we have maintained peace and prosperity through cooperation and understanding. They were led through the ship's corridors, and everywhere they looked, they saw wonders. Gardens where impossible plants grew in spirals of light. Libraries where information was stored in living crystals. Workshops where beings from different worlds worked together to create technologies that seemed like magic." "How do you communicate with so many different species?" Donghyun asked. "Through harmonic integration," Cyrun replied. "When a species joins the confluence, they undergo a process that allows them to share thoughts and feelings directly with others. Language barriers disappear. Misunderstandings become impossible. Conflict ends." Mi-young felt a chill at those words. "What exactly does this integration involve?" "It is a beautiful process," Cyrun said, its skin glowing with warm colors. "Bio-neural connections are established that link individual minds to the greater harmony of the confluence. Each being retains their identity while gaining access to the combined knowledge and wisdom of all member species." They were shown to a large chamber with comfortable seating arranged in a circle. Other aliens joined them, representatives from different species within the confluence. Each one seemed peaceful and content, speaking in the same musical harmonies as the Veltar. "Your species would bring much to our community," Cyrun continued. "Humans are resourceful and determined. Your ability to adapt and survive in difficult conditions is remarkable. With proper integration, these qualities would benefit all members of the confluence." "And what would humanity gain from joining?" Mi-young asked. "Everything," replied another alien, this one with crystalline skin that chimed when it moved. "Access to technologies beyond your current understanding. Protection from the discordant ones who threaten peaceful civilizations. Immortality through consciousness preservation. And most importantly, true peace, an end to war, crime, and suffering." Mi-young exchanged glances with her team. "Sounded too good to be true. The discordant ones?" she asked. Cyrun's colors shifted to darker shades. "Chaotic species that refuse the gift of integration. They cling to primitive concepts like individual superiority and violent competition. They spread discord wherever they go, starting wars and destroying the harmony that peaceful species work to build." "What happens to these discordant species?" "They are contained or, if necessary, removed from areas where they might harm others. The peace of the many must be protected from the chaos of the few." The meeting continued for several hours. The aliens showed them recordings of other species joining the confluence, ceremonies where entire populations celebrated their integration into the galactic community. They demonstrated technologies that could heal any disease, create any material, and travel between stars in minutes rather than months. "We would like to extend a formal invitation to humanity," Cyrun finally said. "Join the Veltar confluence and take your place among the civilized species of the galaxy. The process would take approximately 100 of your years to complete, allowing for gradual integration of your population." Mi-young felt the weight of the moment. This was the most important decision in human history, and these aliens were asking her to help make it. "This is a significant offer," she said carefully. "We would need time to discuss it with our people and our governments." "Of course," Cyrun agreed. "We understand the magnitude of this decision. However, we have prepared chambers where your delegation can experience a preview of integration. This would help you understand the benefits we offer." Something in the way Cyrun said those words made Mi-young nervous. "A preview?" "A temporary connection to our harmonic network. Completely safe and easily reversed. It would allow you to feel the peace and unity that integration brings." Mi-young looked at her team. Donghyun was frowning slightly and she could see concern in his eyes. "That's very generous, but I think we should return to our ship first to report to our captain." "As you wish," Cyrun said, though its colors dimmed slightly. "We will await your response with great anticipation." As they were escorted back to the docking tunnel, Mi-young couldn't shake the feeling that something important was being left unsaid. The confluence seemed perfect, too perfect. And the way Cyrun had spoken about the preview integration chambers made her wonder if they had really been given a choice, or if the trap was already closing around them. Back aboard the Indomitable, Mi Young gathered her team in the secure briefing room. She activated the privacy shields that would prevent any electronic listening devices from recording their conversation. "What did you all think?" she asked. Dong-hyun spoke first. "Something's wrong." "Did you notice how all the aliens in the confluence spoke exactly the same way? Same tone, same rhythm, same musical quality to their voices? Maybe that's just how their translation system works," suggested one of the security officers. "No," Dong-hyun shook his head. "I was watching their body language. Every species we met moved in similar patterns. They all had the same calm, peaceful expressions. It was like they were all following the same script." Mi Young nodded. "I noticed that too. And did you hear how they talked about the discordant ones? Any species that refuses integration is automatically labeled as chaotic and dangerous." "The integration chambers worry me," Dong-hyun continued. "They want us to undergo some kind of neural connection process. They called it a preview, but what if it's not as temporary as they claim? We need more information," Mi Young decided. "When we go back for the next meeting, we need to ask harder questions. And we need to see more of their ship, the parts they haven't shown us yet." Captain Hyunwoo listened to their report with growing concern. The offer from the confluence sounded incredible, but his instincts told him to be careful. He had survived 15 years in space by not trusting things that seemed too good to be true. "Go back," he told Mi Young, "but this time ask to see their medical facilities and their integration centers. If they're offering to change our brains, I want to know exactly what that involves." The next day, Mi Young's team returned to the alien vessel. Sarshan greeted them with the same warm colors and musical voice. "Have you considered our offer?" the alien asked. "We're very interested," Mi Young replied, "but our people would want to understand the integration process better." "Could we see the medical facilities where this is performed?" Sarun's colors flickered slightly. "Of course. We would be happy to show you our Harmony Centers." They were led deeper into the ship, through areas they hadn't seen before. The corridors here were dimmer, and Mi Young noticed that the walls had a different texture, more like metal than living tissue. "These are our compatibility assessment chambers," Sarun explained, as they passed a series of sealed doors. "Each species requires different preparation for integration." Through a window in one of the doors, Dong-hyun caught a glimpse of what was inside. He saw a humanoid figure floating in a tank of glowing liquid, with thin cables attached to its head. The being's eyes were open, but they stared blankly at nothing. "What was that?" he asked. "A recent addition to our community," Sarun replied smoothly. "The integration process requires a period of adjustment." They continued walking, but Dong-hyun managed to look through several more windows. Each chamber contained a different alien species, all floating in the same kind of tank, all with the same blank expressions. The Harmony Center was a vast chamber filled with hundreds of integration pods. Each pod was designed for a different type of alien anatomy. Mi Young saw chambers for beings with wings, others for creatures that breathed different atmospheres, and some for entities that didn't seem to have physical bodies at all. "This is where the miracle happens," Sarun said proudly. "Here, individual consciousness joins with the greater harmony of the confluence." "How long does the process take?" Mi Young asked. "It varies by species. Some take days, others require weeks. But once complete, the being experiences perfect peace and understanding." Dong-hyun was examining one of the empty pods designed for humanoid creatures. Inside, he could see neural interface cables and what looked like injection ports for various chemicals. "What happens to the original personality?" he asked quietly. "It is preserved within the harmony," Sarun answered, "but enhanced and purified. Negative emotions like anger, greed, and selfishness are removed. What remains is the best aspects of the individual, freed from the chaos of uncontrolled thought." Mi Young felt sick. "You're talking about changing who they are." "We are talking about making them better than they were," Sarun corrected. "Your species suffers from violence, war, and hatred. Integration removes these flaws." "Those aren't flaws," Dong-hyun said, his voice getting louder. "Those are part of what makes us human." Sarun's colors shifted to orange and red, the first time they had seen the alien display anything other than calm blues and golds. "Your attachment to negative emotions is exactly why your species needs guidance. You will understand once you experience true harmony." They were led to another chamber where they could observe beings that had already been integrated. Mi Young watched a group of different aliens working together on some kind of technical project. They moved with perfect coordination. never speaking, apparently communicating through their neural links. But as she watched more closely, she noticed something horrible. None of them showed any individual creativity or initiative. They worked like parts of a machine, each one performing their assigned function without question or innovation. They seem very efficient, Mi-young said carefully. Perfect efficiency comes from perfect harmony, Sarun agreed. No energy is wasted on disagreement or individual ambition. What about art? Music? Stories? The confluence creates beautiful works that express our collective consciousness. Individual artistic expression is unnecessary when the community can create something far greater. Dong-hyun was scanning the integrated beings with a hidden medical device. The readings showed massive alterations to their brain structures. Neural pathways had been rerouted. Entire sections of their brains had been modified with biomechanical implants, and their natural brain chemistry had been completely changed. "I'd like to speak with one of them," Mi-young said. "Certainly." Sarun gestured to a nearby integrated being. This individual was once a member of a species called the Kethmar. They were quite violent before joining us. The being approached them with slow, measured steps. Its eyes were clear but somehow empty. When it spoke, its voice had the same musical quality as all the other Confluence members. "I am grateful for the gift of integration," it said. "Before harmony, my people knew only conflict and suffering. Now I understand that individual desire leads only to chaos." "Do you ever miss your old life?" Mi-young asked. The being's expression didn't change. "I do not understand the question. My current existence is objectively superior to my previous state." "But do you ever want to be alone? To make your own choices?" "Individual choice is an illusion that causes suffering. True freedom comes from unity with the greater purpose of the confluence." Mi-young realized with horror that the being wasn't just following a script. It genuinely couldn't conceive of wanting individual freedom anymore. The integration process had removed its ability to even understand what it had lost. As they were escorted back toward the docking area, Dong-hyun managed to slip away from the group for a few minutes. Following a dimly lit corridor, he found what looked like a storage area. Inside were chambers filled with what appeared to be failed integrations. The beings in these tanks were alive, but their eyes showed a terrible awareness trapped in bodies they could no longer control. Some moved their limbs randomly as if trying to remember how to be themselves. Others stared with expressions of permanent terror at what they had become. These were the ones who had resisted the integration process, whose minds had fought against the neural modifications. They weren't dead, but they weren't truly alive either. They existed in a nightmare state between individual consciousness and collective absorption. Dong-hyun quickly recorded everything he could before rejoining the group. When they returned to the Indomitable, he shared his findings with Mi-young and Captain Hyunwoo. "They're not offering us membership in a galactic community," Dong-hyun said grimly. "They're offering to lobotomize our entire species and turn us into biological robots." "And if we refuse?" Hyunwoo asked. "Then we become what they call discordant ones," Mi-young replied. "And from what they told us, discordant species don't survive very long." Captain Hyunwoo looked out at the alien fleet surrounding them. 300 ships, each one powerful enough to destroy planets. His single vessel, no matter how advanced, would last maybe minutes against them. "So our choices are slavery or death," he said quietly. "Not necessarily," Mi-young said. "There's a third option, but you're not going to like it." Hyunwoo turned to face her. "What option?" "We tell them exactly what we think of their offer, and we make sure the rest of humanity knows what really happened here." Captain Hyunwoo called an emergency meeting with all his senior officers. The conference room felt smaller than usual as they gathered around the table, the weight of their situation pressing down on everyone. "Let me make sure I understand our position," Hyunwoo said slowly. "We're surrounded by a fleet that could destroy us in seconds. They've offered humanity membership in their galactic empire, but only if we agree to let them perform brain surgery on our entire species, and if we refuse, they'll hunt us down as enemies." "That's about the size of it," Mi-young confirmed. Tae-min shook his head. "This is insane. How did a first contact situation turn into this nightmare?" "Because they've been doing this for 50,000 years, So-young replied. "They've perfected the process. Approach a new species, offer them paradise, and then assimilate them before they realize what's happening. The question is, what do we do about it?" Hyunwoo asked. Commander So-young leaned forward. "Captain, we have to warn Earth. If we can get a message out, humanity can prepare defenses." Our communication array couldn't reach Earth from here, Jae-hoon said. Too much interference from the alien ships. They're probably jamming us on purpose. What about running? Suggested one of the junior officers. We could try to break through their perimeter and reach the nearest human colony. Taemin ran some quick calculations on his tablet. We might outrun 1 or 2 of their ships, but 300, no chance. They'd catch us within an hour. Fighting is suicide, added the security chief. Our weapons are advanced, but they have technology that's thousands of years ahead of ours. The room fell silent as everyone realized the truth. They were trapped with no way to escape or call for help. The Confluence had planned this perfectly. There is one option, Mi-young said quietly. We go back for the final diplomatic meeting. We give them our official answer to their offer. And then what? Hyunwoo asked. We tell them the truth about what humanity thinks of their integration process. We make it clear that we know what they're really offering and we reject it completely. That's signing our death warrant, Taemin protested. Maybe, Mi-young agreed. But we'll be dying as free humans, not as slaves in their collective. Hyunwoo was quiet for a long moment, thinking. Finally, he looked up at his crew. There's something else we can do. Something that might give humanity a fighting chance. What do you mean? So-young asked. We make sure our death sends a message. The Confluence has been successful for 50,000 years because they control information. Species don't know what integration really means until it's too late. But what if we change that? How? Data torpedoes, Hyunwoo said. We load them with everything we've learned about the Confluence. Recordings of the integration chambers, scans of the brain modifications, proof of what they really do to the species they assimilate. Then we launch them in all directions toward human space. Jae-hoon's eyes lit up. The torpedoes are faster than any ship. Even if the aliens destroy us, some of them might make it through. And when they reach human colonies, everyone will know the truth, Mi-young added. Humanity will have time to prepare for what's coming. It's still a suicide mission, Taemin pointed out. Yes, Hyunwoo agreed. But it's a suicide mission with a purpose. We can't save ourselves, but we might be able to save our species. Over the next few hours, they prepared for what they all knew would be their final mission. The data torpedoes were loaded with every piece of evidence they had collected about the Confluence. Donghyun's medical scans, recordings of their conversations with Sarun, video footage of the integration chambers, everything that would help humanity understand the threat they faced. Taemin worked with his engineering team to modify the ship's weapon systems. If we're going to make a statement, we might as well make it a loud one, he said grimly. The plan was simple. Mi-young would return to the alien ship with a small team for the final diplomatic meeting. When she gave the Confederation humanity's answer, Hyunwoo would launch the data torpedoes and then attack the largest alien vessel. The goal wasn't to win, it was to cause enough chaos to ensure some of the torpedoes escaped. Remember, Hyunwoo told his crew over the ship's communication system, we're not just representing Earth anymore. We're representing every species that ever had a choice between freedom and slavery. What we do here will be remembered. Mi-young prepared for her final diplomatic mission. She put on her best uniform and checked her equipment one last time. This time, she wasn't carrying translation devices or recording equipment. Instead, she carried a simple message that had been written by the entire crew. Ready? Hyunwoo asked her at the airlock. As ready as anyone can be to tell a galactic empire to go to hell, she replied with a grim smile. As Mi-young and her team crossed to the alien vessel, the Indomitable's weapon systems came online. Every gun, every missile launcher, every exotic weapon they carried was charged and ready. The ship's nuclear reactor was pushed to maximum power output. In the alien harmony chamber, Sarun waited with several other Confluence leaders. The alien skin showed expectant golden colors as Mi-young entered. Welcome back, Ambassador Han, Sarun said in its musical voice. Have you reached a decision regarding integration? Mi-young stood straight and looked directly at the alien leader. We have. Excellent. I am certain your species will find great joy in joining our community. Actually, Mi-young said clearly, humanity formally rejects your offer of integration. The colors in Sarun's skin shifted to confused oranges and purples. I do not understand. Perhaps there has been a translation error. No error, Mi-young continued. We've seen your integration chambers. We've talked to your assimilated species. We know what you really do to the beings you claim to help. You are mistaken, Sarun said, its voice losing some of its musical quality. Integration brings peace and harmony. Integration brings slavery, Mi-young replied. You remove everything that makes a being unique and individual. You turn thinking creatures into biological machines. You call it peace, but it's just another form of death. The other aliens in the chamber began showing agitated color patterns. This was clearly not how these meetings usually went. Your species suffers from primitive thinking, Siren said, its skin now showing angry reds. You cannot see beyond your own limited perspective. Maybe not, Mi-young agreed. But we can see enough to know that we'd rather suffer as free beings than exist as slaves in your perfect society. Then you choose to be designated as discordant, Sarun declared. You will be contained or eliminated for the safety of peaceful species. Mi-young smiled. We figured you'd say something like that, so we prepared a response. She pulled out a small device and pressed a button. Back on the Indomitable, Captain Hyunwoo received the signal. This is Captain Hyunwoo Kim of the United Earthship Indomitable, he announced on all frequencies. To any intelligence monitoring this transmission, we are about to die. But before we do, we want the galaxy to know exactly why. The first data torpedo launched from the Indomitable's tubes, racing away from the alien fleet at incredible speed. Then another, and another. The Veltar Confluence has offered humanity membership in their galactic community. Hyunwoo continued his broadcast. They promise peace, prosperity, and an end to suffering. What they don't tell you is that they achieve this peace by destroying everything that makes you who you are. The alien ships began to react, moving to intercept the data torpedoes. But Hyunwoo had launched them in all directions, and there were too many to stop them all. They call it integration, but it's really assimilation. They modify your brain until you can't think individual thoughts anymore. They turn you into a biological robot that serves their collective without question. On the alien vessel, alarms began sounding. Sarun's skin flashed angry reds and blacks as it realized what was happening. Your captain is making a terrible mistake, the alien leader said to Mi-young. No, she replied calmly. Our captain is making sure that when you destroy us, the galaxy will know what really happened here. Humanity might die today, but other species will learn from our sacrifice. This changes nothing, Sarun declared. Your data will be dismissed as propaganda from a primitive species. Maybe, Mi-young said. But some species will listen, some will investigate, and eventually, everyone will know what the confluence really is. A galactic parasite that feeds on the individuality of entire civilizations. The chamber shook as the first alien weapons struck the Indomitable. Through the transparent walls, Mi-young could see the human ship firing back, its weapons creating brilliant flashes of light against the alien fleet. Captain Hyunwoo's voice continued to broadcast across space. We know we cannot defeat the confluence today, but we want every species in the galaxy to remember this moment. Remember that when humanity was offered paradise, we chose freedom. Remember that when we were promised peace, we chose the right to be ourselves. The battle was brief and hopeless, but the message was clear. Humanity would rather die free than live as slaves. The Indomitable's main guns roared to life, sending streams of superheated plasma and kinetic projectiles into the massive alien bioship. The first hits caused the living vessel to writhe in what looked like agony, its bioluminescent patterns flickering wildly as sections of its hull were torn away. Captain Hyunwoo stood on his bridge, watching the impossible battle unfold around him. His single ship was surrounded by over 300 alien vessels, each one larger and more powerful than anything humanity had ever built. But for these few precious minutes, they were making the confluence pay attention. Data Torpedo 7 away, reported Taemin from his engineering station. 8 and 9 launching now. The alien fleet was scrambling to intercept the fleeing torpedoes, but they had been caught off guard. Several of the small, fast projectiles had already disappeared into hyperspace, racing toward human colonies with their cargo of terrible truth. Direct hit on the bioship's central section, called out So-young. Their hull is regenerating, but we're doing real damage. The alien retaliation was swift and overwhelming. Beams of energy that could cut through planets sliced into the Indomitable's armor. Biomissiles that moved like living creatures swarmed around the human ship, exploding against its shields in brilliant flashes of destructive force. Hull breach on Deck 7, Taemin shouted over the noise of alarms. Emergency bulkheads are holding. Hyunwoo opened the ship-wide communication channel one final time. All hands, this is the captain. It has been an honor to serve with each and every one of you. We came out here to explore the stars and find humanity's place in the galaxy. Today we found that place, standing against tyranny no matter the cost. On the alien vessel, Mi Young felt the ship shudder under the Indomitable's assault. Sarun's skin had turned deep black with rage, and the other Confluence leaders were radiating patterns of shock and fury. "Your vessel cannot harm us significantly," Sarun declared. "This display of violence only proves that your species is too primitive for civilization." "You're wrong about that," Mi Young replied calmly. "We're not being violent because we're primitive. We're fighting because we're free, and free beings will always fight against those who try to enslave them." The Harmony Chamber's walls became transparent, showing the battle raging outside. The Indomitable looked tiny against the massive alien fleet, but its weapons continued to fire with desperate determination. Every shot was a statement. Humanity would not go quietly into slavery. "This is meaningless," Sarun said, but its voice had lost its musical quality. "Your ship will be destroyed, your crew will die, and your species will still face the choice between integration and extinction." "Maybe," Mi Young agreed. "But now that choice won't be made in ignorance. Thanks to Captain Kim and his crew, humanity will know exactly what you're offering, and I think I know what their answer will be." Through the transparent walls they watched as more alien ships converged on the Indomitable. The human vessel's shields were failing, and its hull was beginning to crack under the relentless assault. But it kept fighting, kept broadcasting, kept sending its message of defiance across the galaxy. "Data torpedo 15 away," came Taemin's voice over the communication system. 16 launching. 17 launching. How many?" Hyunwoo asked. 37 torpedoes total, sir. At least 12 have made it to hyperspace. They're carrying our complete findings to every human colony we can reach. Outstanding work, everyone. Make them count our last few shots. The Indomitable's main guns fired again, this time targeting the bioship's weapon clusters. The alien vessel's organic weapons writhed and died under the concentrated fire, ichor-like fluid spraying into space. But the damage to the human ship was becoming critical. Entire sections were without power, and the bridge itself was filled with smoke and sparks from overloaded systems. "Captain," So Young reported, "we've lost main engines. Weapons are operating on backup power only. Then we'll make our final statement with what we have left," Hyunwoo decided. "Set course for ramming speed. Target the largest bioship, sir?" Taemin asked, not sure he had heard correctly. "You heard me. Full collision course. If we're going to die, let's make sure they remember us." The battered Indomitable turned toward the massive alien flagship, its remaining engines pushing it forward on what everyone knew would be its final voyage. The ship's hull groaned under the stress of battle damage, but it held together long enough to matter. "This is Captain Hyunwoo Kim, making our final transmission," Hyunwoo announced to the galaxy. To any human listening to this message, the aliens are not what they seem. They offer peace, but they deliver slavery. They promise to make you better, but they want to make you into something that isn't human anymore. The alien weapons fire intensified, trying to destroy the Indomitable before it could reach its target. But the human ship's course was true, and its momentum carried it forward through the devastating barrage. To the Veltar Confluence and any other species listening, humanity rejects your offer. We choose chaos over control, conflict over compliance, and freedom over your version of peace. We may be primitive by your standards, but we're primitive and free. On the bioship, Sarun watched the approaching human vessel, with what might have been respect mixed with its anger. "They are more determined than most species," it admitted to Mi Young. "That's what makes us human," she replied proudly. "We don't give up even when we should." The Indomitable struck the bioship's hull with the force of a falling mountain. The impact tore through layers of living tissue and organic armor, sending shockwaves through the massive vessel. The human ship's nuclear reactor, already damaged by weapons fire, went critical in the collision. The explosion lit up space like a new star being born. When the light faded, both ships were gone. The Indomitable vaporized in nuclear fire, and the bioship broken in half, its organic components dying in the cold vacuum of space. But the message had been sent. Across the galaxy, the data torpedoes raced toward their destinations, carrying humanity's warning to anyone who would listen. 6 months later, the first torpedo reached the human colony of New Geneva. The colonists listened in horror to Captain Kim's final transmission and studied the evidence of what the confluence really did to integrated species. Within days, the information was being broadcast to every human world. The reaction was swift and unanimous. Humanity began preparing for war. Not a war of conquest, but a war of survival. They built ships, trained soldiers, and formed alliances with other species that had rejected the Confluence's offer. But more importantly, they spread the word. Human explorers carried the truth about integration to every corner of the galaxy they could reach. Some species didn't believe them. Others were too afraid of the Confluence to act. But a few listened and began to resist. For the first time in 50,000 years, the Veltar Confluence faced organized opposition. Species that had been marked for integration disappeared from their worlds before the Harmony fleets could arrive. Others fought back, using tactics and technologies that the Confluence had never encountered. The galaxy began to change. The age of forced peace was ending, replaced by something messier but more honest. A cosmos where beings could choose their own destinies, even if those choices led to conflict and suffering. In hidden bases and rebel strongholds, the story of the Indomitable became legend. They called it the ship that said no, the vessel that chose death over slavery and sparked the first galactic rebellion in 50 millennia. Captain Hyun Woo. Kim and his crew never lived to see the war they started. But their sacrifice ensured that when humanity finally faced the Confluence in open battle, they fought not as victims but as free beings who knew exactly what they were fighting for. And in the end, that made all the difference. The message of the Indomitable echoed across the stars. Some things are worth dying for, and freedom is at the top of that list. The Confluence had learned to expect submission from the species they encountered. They were not prepared for the chaos that free beings could unleash when their backs were against the wall. The war for galactic freedom had begun, and it started with a single ship's refusal to surrender what made them human.